All right. All right. Oh, yeah. What a day. What a day. All right. I'm going to roll in here in a sec, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. It's Friday night. Friday night. And I just got paid. Okay. Welcome to Rock Vegas, everybody. This is Glen Rockney coming at you live, hat free. No hat today. Thanks for noticing. Yeah, shout out to everybody on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button if you don't already. Yeah. Oh, look, he doesn't know he's live. Wonder who pressed the button. It's me. Yeah, it's me. Matt Fallon can't make it today. He's getting ready for his to watch his Giants. They're playing the Dodgers. Any Dodgers fans in the chat want to talk some shit to Matt Fallon about his Giants? I will be happy to relay the message. I hate the Giants. But yeah, what a day. What a day, Raider Nation. I was not expecting to talk about some of the stuff that I was going to talk about. And all right, where to start? Well, the Raiders are going to play the Bears this week, right? Let's start with that. Okay, before I get into the other stuff. The Raiders are banged up. They're very banged up. I think are we without Mullen and Arnett? I believe they still have Hayward. Mullen and Arnett. I think Gruden was actually wondering, like, I'm not sure if we're going to be I'm not sure if we're going to be putting these guys on IR. There's different stages of IR. You have the 3-week IR, you have the 8-week IR, and I believe you have the full season IR. They need to decide what they're going to do with those roster spots pretty soon. Nonetheless, thin in the secondary, to say the least. But it's pretty good the way the depth played last week, I thought. A lot better than when the Raiders were down to their skeletons at corner, really down to their bare bones at corner. You don't know too much. You knew that was going to end up resulting in some bullshit, man. When you were down to your DeMarcus Van Dykes, your Chris Johnsons, guys like that. When you were down to just those few people, you're like, man, Raiders are going to get rolled, and they did get rolled in those games. The last game, at least Amik Robertson showed he could cover a big wide receiver on the outside. It's not so much that he covered well on the outside that shocked me. That's what he did in college. If you look at PFF grades in college, which me and Matt Holder seem to be the only people who give a shit about those. And, I have my problems, especially with coverage grade. When you look at the way, when you see people do tape breakdowns and you're like, well, what tape is PFF watching? And they kind of rely on targets. I think your grade really gets skewed to your targets, not so much if you covered well on the play and the quarterback had to look elsewhere. I don't know if that factors in as much. I think it should. Nonetheless, I still like to use him as a bit of a reference because I'm not a big film guy. I'm not a big scheme guy. But Amik Robertson was one of the highest graded. I think he had the highest coverage grade out of any DB in college that he was drafted. So there's obviously something there on the outside. He was playing against guys like Colin Johnson, who's like 6'6". He's with Jacksonville now, but he was with Texas when Amik Robertson was in college. And you saw him running with Mike Williams, not giving up any. He was giving up about a foot difference in height, it seemed like. But, he's wasn't getting pushed around, wasn't getting bullied, was making tackles. It's a lot different because he was moved to the slot. And yeah, of course, that's what you try to do with a small corner. 5 foot, what is he, 5'8", something like that? you put a 5'8" guy, you want to put him in the slot, but also that 5'8" guy is going to have to play a little bit of linebacker at times, essentially, in the run game. That's what slot DBs do. Your slot DB isn't necessarily your smallest DB, right? It's your guy. It's probably your most willing to tackle DB. And I know Amik Robertson's willing to tackle wide receivers on the outside, but him tackling running backs with tree trunk thighs, not something I want to see all the time. So I'd like to keep him outside. I think he's going to get a good look at it with Arnett out. I mean, why not, right? Because that game could have got way out of hand a lot earlier with some of those injuries. And Meek Robertson, Nate Hobbs, guys like that really stepped up. So that's something you're glad to see. Just looking at the injury report here, Peyton Barber, I would imagine Peyton Barber doesn't play this game. If he's talking about a possible turf toe situation, and he's questionable right now. He's limited today in practice. So yeah, it's not nothing, but yeah, I don't know. I would just prepare to be without Peyton Barber, which is a shame because I do like some things he did. I'm not sure why he got hurt on that kickoff. What the hell is he doing returning kickoffs? Some of these, they have Henry Ruggs and him returning kickoffs, and those are two guys I'd really not like to lose this year, especially on a kickoff. And I don't think either of them are world beaters at in kickoff or special teams. That's not why we have them here. So, nonetheless, they're going to be probably without Peyton Barber. I would just lean that way. Trayvon Mullen's out. Damon Arnett's out. Derek Carrier's out. You got guys like Jonathan Abram. It looks like he just has kind of limited practices during the week just because of the way he plays. He's full practice today. And actually, they're not quite as I don't see anything on Jermaine Illuminor. That's what I don't see. I thought he got hurt in the game. I'm not sure what happened there, but I guess he's not going to be that's not going to be an issue with him. Casey Hayward, they haven't ruled, which he didn't practice again today. I don't know if that was a personal reason or something like that. And the Raiders came out of that game a little less banged up than even I thought. And I don't use injuries as excuses. I really don't think we should. The only injury I would use as excuse would be like Derek Carr or Darren Waller. Maybe Henry Ruggs too, arguably, just given the impact that he has on this receiving core and just what he can do and the attention that he draws from defense, especially lately, because it seems like once or twice a game he's getting free downfield. And now that's resulting in targets. We understand some of those didn't hit against the Chargers, but more often than not, they've been hit. And I like that, or resulted in a PI, something that gets you mass chunks of yards. So with those three guys, those are the three guys that can't go down. Everybody else, it's like that's still aren't season records. Casey Hayward, I would argue, is very important to this team too. But even then, if he could stay afloat while Mullen and Arnett are out, I know Casey Hayward's older. He gets banged up almost every game. But if he can just stay around for these next 3 or 4 games, I think this defense can at least be respectable against any opponent. Because they didn't get gashed. They got gashed on the ground. But I think they were willing to give that up, it seemed like. That just seems like something with a Gus Bradley defense. I know they want to stop the run. Every defensive coordinator says they want to stop the run, but I do think he wants a penetration first off defensive line rather than necessarily a gap disciplined defensive line. I think he'd rather see that, which to be honest, I would too. In this division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, the Broncos, I guess, are okay. But yeah, when you play in the AFC, everybody likes to air it out in the AFC. You only have really the Browns that are just a super run heavy team that's any good. So Raiders are trying to win the AFC, get that pass rush and coverage units down. And one person they really miss, I think on defense is Nicholas Morrow. I cannot wait to have them back. I talked about this a little bit last time, but I'm not sure what's happening. It doesn't sound like he's been cleared to practice. I would say it's a second half of the season thing, if at all. You don't know if this is just going to linger all the time, but they need him out there because I think he can do everything Denzel Perryman can do. Maybe a little, not quite as good against the run as Perryman is, but I would sacrifice it. And I think just in coverage, Nick Morrow is one of the better linebackers in the league. I mean, it's just there's statistics, grades, and film to back that up. And I kind of forgot about him. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I kind of forgot about them. Yeah, as people say, Titans. Yeah, AFC, just in general, passing is a passing division. Now against the Titans, I'd want to. Oh, he's saying Titans for the runs. Yeah, right. Titans are a run heavy team. I agree 1,000%. So yeah, you'd have the Titans, and the Browns would be the 2 run heavy teams. Everybody else is airing it out. Buffalo, KC, those teams they're airing it out. You want to stop those teams. So yeah. The Raiders, I don't use the injuries as an excuse because they're not. Everybody's banged up. The Raiders got some wins against banged up teams, and I hated when they use that as an excuse because you got to go in there for the most part, other than Miami, which you'd argue that Brissett and Tua are about as even as a backup is with the starter of anyone in the league. I would argue that maybe Heineke and Fitzpatrick those would be the 2 teams I would say have the smallest gap between the starter and the backup. So, but everybody else had a healthy quarterback. Steelers just have a bad one right now. But we played a healthy Lamar Jackson. So that's not nothing. But against the Bears coming up, you're going to have Justin Fields. And I know everybody's kind of licking their chops at that, but I don't think he's that bad. I truly don't. I don't think he's that bad. Even right now, I don't think he's that bad. I actually like Justin Fields a lot as a pro. But sorry, I'm drinking a beer. Whew, that thing is not going down. Like beer burps like crazy. I remember my first beer, right? Well, Justin Fields, I think if they can get him on the run, the Raiders get killed by scrambles. They do. It's just been a thing so far this year. They've been getting killed on scrambles. They shoot their gaps, and the linebackers don't want to come up because they shouldn't come up to make that play on a running quarterback. So you just don't want to give up that pass right over your head. And it just in that cover 3, that just seems to be the issue. They don't quite have the speed that like the Seattle Seahawks running that cover 3 did to make up for it, chase the quarterback down. They're going to want to, I don't know if you're going to want to spy Justin Fields. I don't know if we're quite there yet. I do want to keep as many guys in coverage as possible, especially with the David Montgomery injury. I'm not as worried about them gashing you on the ground. But yeah, I'm excited that this is the matchup, but it's not an easy win. It should be, but it's not, right? It's one of those games. It should be an easy win, but it isn't. The Bears still have, I would say, 3 game records on defense. You have Jalen Johnson, Roquan Smith, and of course, our old friend Khalil Mack. You have those 3 guys. They have 3 guys at one guy at each level, I should say, that could fuck up your game. They can, and we need to not let them. Joey Bosa, I mean, thank God John Simpson recovered that fumble because Joey Bosa had the strip sack. And, Khalil Mack, he's not having quite the season he has 4 sacks, which is not bad at all. He's not having quite the season that he was winning the win rate that he was having the last couple of years, but he's still a menace. And as I'm going to get to in a second, the Raiders, right tackle position is not great. And he rushes off the right side. And why would you rush him against Colton Miller when Colton Miller is the only good pass blocker on this team right now? I wouldn't. I would get Mack on whoever's starting at right tackle, right? we don't know who that is yet, and I have some strong opinions on that. But keep Justin Fields in the pocket, make him hold that ball for a long time. You got to cover. If you cover, the sacks will be there because Justin Fields holds the ball longer than any quarterback in the league. Even Tom Brady in an Arians offense. Tom Brady shortened his time to throw. Justin Fields hasn't quite figured that out yet. He looked pretty good against the Lions. But the Lions have a Raiders level, 2020 Raiders level defense. So I would say maybe even worse. It's really bad. So if the Raiders can continue to get pressure, they pressured Justin Herbert on 34% of his dropbacks last time. If the Raiders can continue to get that kind of pressure that they got on Herbert, I think with the Bears, another weak offensive line, definitely not anybody that's going to, like Rashawn Slater did a really nice job last game, and the Bears don't have anybody like that that can really handle the Raiders pass rush, especially on the outside. Darius Philon, if he can keep winning early, that is a huge win because I don't think the edge guys are going to let Justin Fields get outside. Might be a Cleveland Ferrell game. I'm not saying Cleveland Ferrell is a guy I ever really want to see on the field, but there could be times if early Justin Fields is breaking the pocket and getting away, you can have a guy who is on, at least on paper can play the run a little bit. You might want to do that, but we'll see. Carl Nassib's also been really good this year. I thought Carl Nassib did a really nice job last game, had a couple really good reps in the run game. Wouldn't hate to see him, more of him, especially to not burn out Max Crosby, if that's even possible. I think Carl Nassib, you're going to want to show your depth at pass rush this game. The Bears sacked him like 8 times. We don't have anybody like Myles Garrett. I still think this defense is just literally one. I don't even think it's Khalil Mack at this point. You need just that one playmaker. It used to be Khalil Mack was the guy they needed on this defense. And, hey, I'd still take him, but I think the edges are set for the most part, but they just need that game record defensive tackle, that game record safety, lockdown court, just somebody that puts the ball in the defense's hands, takes it away from the team. And the Raiders just don't have that, but I think they've done a good job becoming average at every level, which I like. Average to good. But yeah, make Justin Fields uncomfortable and don't start slow on offense, as somebody Siddharth was mentioning in the chat here. Don't start slow. I say don't establish the run later in the game. It's come to a point where Jon Gruden, I know, like, the Raiders were throwing the ball 45 times a game the first couple games, and it was working. They had a really good game plan those first couple games. They said, you know what, we're going to run the ball here and there, but for the most part, I've been saying it like a broken record on here, your short pass game can be your run game if you don't have a run game, right? And a lot of times it's even better. A lot of teams do that on first down. Just dump it off to Renfro, 4 or 5 yards. Sometimes even more than that. Sometimes you get a first down on first down when you pass, especially against a loaded box or something like that. Now we're seeing a thing, unfortunately, where the other teams don't even have to load the box because Andre James doesn't know who to block. I was listening to my friend Marcus Johnson talk about that, where when your center doesn't know who to block, your center's in charge of telling people who to block, how to block, where to block, who's rushing. But he doesn't himself even know who to block. It's not even like he's good and he's not a good teacher or not a good explainer to the offensive line. He doesn't know who to block. And that's why we need Nick Martin out there. We need Nick Martin out here. The Raiders are doing, they don't want to start slow. I get it. The slow start ultimately killed them. If that was anything other than 21-0 at the half, I think the Raiders have a good chance of coming back and winning that game. But 21 is just a lot. You need way too much stuff to go right when you're down 21-0. It's the facts. You cannot do that against good teams. Now, I wouldn't consider the Bears a good team. But if you're down 21-0 to the Bears, we got some serious issues. Right? And the Raiders have not had a fast start in a long time. I want to score on the first drive. Even if it's only 3, I want to score on the first drive. Get a couple first downs. I'm used to seeing that with this Raiders, starting hot and then wondering in the third, quarter, is this team going to crumble? And a lot of times it did. And, it's definitely better to look better in the second half, but it cannot be your offense cannot be non-existent for the first 5 possessions of the game. Guys are too good in this league. And it's not fair to the rest of your team. And I have my critiques of Carr, him, passing up running opportunities and having issues with seeing ghosts a little bit, and going down fat. I have issues with that. I don't think he played all that well. I think he had a bad Carr game last game, but we need to be prepared for your quarterback to not have the best game 17 games out of the year. Need to be prepared for that. Other guys got to step up, and the run game's not there. It's not there till later in the game when the defense has to fear your short passing game. Then your short passing game can set up 2 things. The short passing game sets up the run game and the deep ball. The double moves, all that stuff. When the defense has to cheat up, when they know you can gain 5-6 yards at any moment on them. Get yourself out of 3rd and long because you don't have the offensive line to protect on a 3rd and long, right? These 2 1-yard run play, 2-yard run plays, 3rd and 7, sack. I hate those drives. It's predictable. I can predict them after a couple beers. I can just be on my couch predicting a play. What do you think the opposing coach can do? And a lot of it's personnel too. Andre James should not be playing. Nick Martin should be the center of this team. And it says a lot when you're trying to, this is not a defense of Alex Leatherwood, but it's just a reality of this team and the issues I have in the selections that they make and the way they build this team sometimes. A lot of times, I should say, is Alex Leatherwood is a right tackle. You drafted him to play right tackle. He's already switching from left tackle to right tackle. We see what happens with Penei Sewell with Detroit, highly touted Oregon tackle. In preseason was playing right tackle, looked awful. Taylor Decker gets hurt at left tackle. Penei Sewell moves back to left tackle, and it looks like, hey, he looks great. I'm not saying move Alex Leatherwood to left tackle. That's not what I'm saying. But you're already asking him to learn a new position. You're already asking him to say, hey, I got to learn how to move my feet differently, because if you notice, whenever the rusher gets to the point of attack with Alex Leatherwood's feet stop moving. That is a technique issue. It's teachable, but that's what he needs to be working on from right tackle right now, because that's what this team's going to need him to do. He's got to stay at right tackle. Look, this is what this team signed up for. You signed up to draft a reach pick. Well, I'm sorry, it's fair to say it's a consensus reach pick. If you ask anybody on a lot of teams didn't have him as a first rounder. You cannot tell me otherwise. You reach for him. You say, hey, this is my right tackle. I want to be able to run the ball to the right side, and we think we can develop him as a pass blocker. Well, this is him developing. I'm sorry, developing sounds great on paper until you watch somebody develop or learn how to play. It's not fun sometimes, and I knew that was going to happen, which is kind of why I was kind of worried about, like, do we want to get rid of Trent Brown? Look, I understand Trent Brown hasn't even played for the Patriots. I understand. I'm just saying it makes more sense to keep the veteran sometimes. And I don't hate that they drafted Alex Leatherwood. I'm completely over the pick, but I don't want to just give. People are talking about Robert Gallery, bringing up Robert Gallery. Robert Gallery switched to guard 4 years into his career after it was clear he was not a tackle in the NFL. It was clear that he was a mega bust in the NFL. Right? Like, what was that draft? Larry Fitzgerald was the one, I think, like, was a huge, the miss in that draft. I remember, like, where it was like, fuck, we could have Larry Fitzgerald, something like that. Robert Gallery moved in. Yeah, he ended up being a solid guard for a couple more years in the NFL after moving. This is game 5 of Alex Leatherwood's career. Again, you signed up to have this guy learn on the fly. And if you're like, oh, man, we're missing incognito, man, we thought we were going to have that stalwart incognito on the line, Denzel Good. I'm sorry, man. We're not betting on a guy coming off an Achilles, a 40-year-old guard coming off an Achilles to play guard for you. You cannot bet on that. That incognito being healthy is like a bonus to your team. It shouldn't be the thing that crumbles your offensive line. I don't even think it is the thing. I think the thing that crumbles the offensive line is the guy you put at center that can't even snap the ball properly and can't even block the wrong guy, or can't even block the right guy, I should say. He's always on the floor. Watch the tape. He is on the floor. He's going to blow out somebody else's Achilles by rolling up on it. Like, is somebody shooting a tranquilizer dart into Andre James' neck as soon as the snap hits? Like from a safari cart? Like, what is going on, man? Like Wild Thornberry's guy just right in the neck. Like, what is going on? Why is he on the floor all the time? It's really tough to do your job in the NFL from laying down on the ground. In fact, a lot of positions, the whole goal is to not go on the ground. But this is another pride move from Jon Gruden. Another pride move where he's just like, no, this is my guy. So they're allowing Andre James to learn on the fly, but not the guy they picked 17th overall. They're allowing the UDFA camp guy that Tom Cable loves. That guy's allowed to make mistakes at center, and it's totally fine. It's like, hey, oh, yeah, he's learning. But number 17 overall, guy that we're asking to switch from left to right, which is a lot tougher than people think, he can't do it. Nope, sorry, move into guard. We're putting Brandon Parker out there. Here's the thing about fans with Brandon Parker. They got me a little crazy because I said Alex Leatherwood had never played guard. And okay, I understand I'm wrong about that. So I looked it up. I said, okay, let me find where Alex Leatherwood played guard. Let's see how he did. Maybe I'm missing something. He played guard his sophomore year. We drafted him after a senior season. Sophomore year. Allowed 21 pressures in a year. That's not good. That doesn't mean you're a good guard. So he's given up, like, he gave up a lot of pressures as a guard. They moved him back to tackle. And it would have been fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm not mad that they have Leatherwood, but he's not a guard. He's not a guard. And you know what's pissing me off that people say is that, oh, anybody's better than when the Raiders drafted Leatherwood, and a lot of us were concerned. We're like, dude, I don't know if that's the guy, man, especially when you need him to start year one. Like, I don't know if that's the guy. A lot of people were like, well, dude, we had Sam Young and Brandon Parker last year on the offensive line, and anyone's better than them. Turns out that's not true, right? Alex Leatherwood is the worst graded guard per PFF in the league. Or I'm sorry, right tackle in the league. It is what it is. I don't think he's the worst one in the league. I think he's just learning right now. I think he will eventually be a solid starting right tackle in the league. You have to let these guys develop. Guess who's the worst graded center in the league for PFF? Andre James. One guy's allowed to develop and make mistakes. The other guy's not. So they kick him into guard. And guess who they're putting back at right tackle? Brandon Parker, the guy who said when Alex Leatherwood was drafted, anybody's better than Brandon Parker. So now you're saying Brandon Parker's better, which he's not. I'm sorry, he's not. I don't think he is at all. People, he played well against the Steelers right after TJ Watt got hurt. So Alex Leatherwood goes up against TJ Watt, gets his ass kicked. Sure. And then Alex Leatherwood has the oblique injury. Halftime comes in. Brandon Parker plays the second half. Oh, man. Yeah. The backup played against the backup. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, it's wishful thinking. I get it. As fans, we cope is what we do. Just don't make excuses for it. This team botched the O-line situation. They're trying to correct it in-house. I don't know if the solutions are there in-house, but I'd like to just see Illuminor. Believe in the chat. Is anybody Illuminor? Am I missing it? Did he go on IR? I didn't see if he did. Like, he's healthy, right? Illuminor at guard, John Simpson at guard, Nick Martin at center, Colton Miller at left tackle, Leatherwood at right tackle, and we rock with that. Nick Martin knows the right guy to block. He might not block the guy. That's the thing. He might not even block the guy. I'm not even confident in that. But I cannot have the center looking around like he just got dropped off by a spaceship and is on a planet he's never been on before. Like, what? Oh my gosh, Houston, we have a problem. I don't know who the linebacker is. I don't know who what am I doing? What is a linebacker? What is it, the football game? I have never heard of this. This is how Andre James plays. And then he just goes on the ground because that's where people from his planet do. They just fall on the ground the minute the ball's snapped. And then snap the ball over the quarterback's head. Okay? Offensive line situation's a joke, man. I'm tired of the way they're handling it. If Alex Leatherwood has a bad game at guard, what do you do to his confidence then when he finds out he can't play any position in the NFL? Yeah, no, I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. Okay. Got that out of my system, right? I'm not mad. Not mad. So I do expect the Raiders to win this game. Hell, beat their ass, blow them out. Treat it like it should be like the Denver game last year in Vegas. It should be like the Denver game. Should kick their ass, turn the ball over, sacks, fumbles. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. You can't use injuries in this game as an excuse. You don't need your secondary healthy to stop this passing game. You don't. You just need to play well. And I'm not even putting a lot on the defense. I thought they played reasonably good football last game against a tough opponent. The offense needs to come out banging. Test these corners. Make the Bears tackle. You're facing the same defensive scheme, but I think Brandon Staley might be better than Vic Fangio at this time in their careers. Although, we all know Vic Fangio taught Brandon Staley everything he knows, but I think Brandon Staley is a damn good coach. And unfortunately, he's the Chargers coach. And I think he's going to be for a while. The Bears are not a well-run franchise. Okay. You're facing you're a franchise that the Raiders are not a very well-run franchise, but I think they're in better shape than the Bears right now. I think Justin Fields is a good prospect. I don't think he's very good right now. No excuse in this game. Blow him off the ball. Step up. Guys got to make plays. Brian Edwards, where are you at? Let me see you. Make some plays. Darren Waller, go off. Let's go. Foster Moreau, let's make some plays. Henry Ruggs. They're going to have Jalen Johnson on Henry Ruggs. Beat him. Torch him. And yeah, like I'm seeing in the chat, Siddharth saying Jacobs hasn't looked very good. And I just don't think he's very healthy, and I don't think the offensive line's good. Now, one thing I've had an issue with this team is there's a saying in the football community is when you want to be able to run the ball, when you want to fix your running game, the dumbest thing you can do when you want to fix your running game is spend money or draft use high draft picks on a running back. You fix the O-line. You fix your scheme, right? Offensive line, make the running game go. But what did the Raiders do? They paid Kenyon Drake and they drafted Josh Jacobs in the first round, and now they're averaging 2.9 yards a carry on the season. And Peyton Barber's looked the best. So, again, it's all about team building. That's where I come from. And I'm gonna get to the Gruden stuff in just a second. I just want to finish up this Bears thing. I'm definitely gonna get to the Gruden stuff. And I expect Jacobs to look better than he has. I think he's just not healthy. I don't think the cutting was there. Yeah, you could tell early that he'd be one-on-one with a guy. He just didn't have that ankle, that right ankle. He couldn't cut on it. Hopefully that's better now because he's practicing in full. But another game on turf. You're at home, man. You're at home. I think the Bears fans travel well. I actually expect this will be one of those games where the haters about the Vegas stadium is like, oh, it's always going to be the other team's fans dominating. And I'm gonna be like, well, let's see. The Bears are definitely one of those teams that have fans around the world. I know a bunch of Bears fans. I'm in the Bay Area. I know a bunch of Bears fans. So let's move on to Jon Gruden. Wild things happened today with on the Jon Gruden front. Everybody knows me. I'm not a big fan of the guy. I like some things he does on offense, but I'm not the I'm not the biggest fan. And now something happened to him today. Somebody brought up an email from the past, and now the way this email, from my understanding, the way this email came to light was the Washington football team is under investigation for, I don't know if it's sexual harassment, some of the stuff that was happening in the front office. And there was an email to Bruce Allen in 2011 from Jon Gruden. And he said something about DeMaurice Smith, who was the NFL Player Association president. And it's not great. He commented on the size of he called him DeMaurice Smith, like dumb. That part's funny. Okay, let's admit there. He says he has the lips of the size of Michelin tires. That's not, you shouldn't be saying that. Black guys, you shouldn't be saying that about lips and stuff like that. It's a thing. Look, whatever. So he wrote it in a private email to Bruce Allen, and this was leaked by the Wall Street Journal. This is in 2011. We all know Jon Gruden was not a NFL head coach. And I don't know if he was necessarily planning on being an NFL coach again. You don't know this. And he was talking to his old friend, and he made an off-color joke. Now, everybody wants to know about this. One, what's going to happen to Jon Gruden? Here's my prediction. He's not getting fired. It would be insane to fire a guy for something he did when he wasn't even employed by the NFL. He was employed by ESPN, not the NFL. I think that's how that works. It would be insane. Now, you have the contract, right? He has 6 more years on the contract. You really think Mark Davis is going to pull the plug right now? I don't even think Mark Davis is going to pull the plug on anything. I think Jon Gruden could go shoot somebody at Caesar's Palace, and Mark Davis is like, oh, Jon, what are you doing, man? Then you'd be like, oh, Jon, stop, please. You're making this real tough. But what I expect to happen, I expect like a heavy fine. Heavy fine. It's going to be make an example out of him type fine. And then I expect him to do some very kind of performative charity work, right? You're going to see Jon Gruden going to very diverse children's association, thing, and giving I think he's going to take like an anti-racism class. He's going to do all that stuff, right? All that stuff, because that's kind of what you have to do nowadays when you say something a long time ago. And I'm not a big cancel culture guy. I think it's kind of bullshit. I think that's not a good thing you should be saying. But that was a private email to his friend, and it was obtained investigating something that had nothing to do with Jon Gruden. So, it is what it is. Now, what does this mean for the team? What does this mean for the team? Did Jon Gruden lose the team? Everybody's bringing up it as an example. I've seen a couple people in the chat right here. Shout out to everybody watching right now. Rock Vegas. Hit the subscribe button if you don't already. This is RC Sports podcast. I'm always doing a lot of sports content. But what does this mean for the team? Is this like Washington football team Sunday Night Football, Raiders getting boat raced by I don't know what to call them. They were the Redskins at the time. So, they were getting crushed that game. Raiders had started 2-0, and Jack Del Rio had lost the team. I don't know if Gruden lost the team. And I'm going to say something. Some people might not like this. I don't know how much the team cares. I think there's going to be a couple players that do. There might be a couple players that do. They'll be like, be like, hey, coach, like, what are you talking about? Is this how you talk about us behind, in your emails to Mike Mayock, like such and such? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be that crazy of a thing. Now, what Gruden does need to do is he needs to address the team and he needs to talk about it before that happens. And he needs to say, hey, look, guys, I'm all, if you want to ask me any questions about it, I'll be an open book. He shouldn't spin it off, right? He shouldn't have to spin it off to his team, but he should be telling them, like, look, if you guys have questions, come hit me up. Because I think this is a good locker room. Like, this team fights, man. Like, this team fights. They play hard. You could not be 3-1 right now if the Raiders didn't play hard. They've had to play 5 quarters of football in 2 of the games out of the year. And they've looked like the better team in the second half in most of the games. I think this team does. I don't think this one thing is going to lose that locker room. I don't think that's the case. Well, we don't have to worry about the offensive line stopping blocking for Derek Carr like in 2017, like everyone says, because they don't block from now anyways. So it's, you don't have to worry about that aspect of it, because I remember that was the biggest thing in 2017 that happened. But I have a hard time believing that this is going to be that. Here's what's the aftermath of this is going to be. It's the NFL, everybody knows the guys I'm talking about in the NFL, where everything, you got to insert your politics into every NFL take. Like, that seems to be the criteria for covering the NFL now is, oh, that's my politics. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh man. Mac Jones threw an interception. Oh, he must like raisins in his potato salad and stuff like that. Oh man, white people be throwing interceptions. Like, how the NFL people cover that shit now. Like, it's kind of performative and funny, but that's the way it is. You turn on ESPN and everything's about like, wow, this player's politics suck. Like, they should cut him. Like, that's always what it is. It's going to make its round. It's going to be an annoying couple of weeks for the Raiders. Annoying. Everybody's going to be like, how could you employ this racist guy who hasn't watched NFL in 20 years? Is going to be crying for NFL teams to fire somebody. You're going to be seeing that a lot. Now, also, you're going to see is when the Raiders have a tough loss, they're going to be like, wow, maybe if your head coach, they're going to bring up the screenshot of the quote and all that stuff. They're going to be using it against Jon Gruden. Raider fans do it to other teams whenever they have, with Tyreek Hill breaking his son's arm. It's going to be like that situation, right? But is Tyreek Hill still allowed to play football? Tyreek Hill still allowed to do what he does. Ben Roethlisberger had a very interesting part of his career. Every time Ben Roethlisberger throws an interception, that shit gets brought up too. It is what it is. That's going to stick to Gruden. But I don't think he lost the team. I really don't. We're going to see. I mean, look, how are we going to know if he lost the team? They come out flat every game. So if they come out flat against the Bears, is it because he lost the team, or is it just the 5th straight slow start? So I don't know. I don't think so. I think this team's fine. Everybody will be scouring Twitter, asking the players what's going to happen. I think the media is going to be asking players, hey, what'd you think of what coach said? What'd you think? The players are going to be put on the spot and asked about it. That's just the way the NFL media works nowadays. And they're going to answer the question. And things like this move fast in the NFL. And I haven't seen players asking to be traded and stuff like that. I think you'd be surprised at the actual talk that goes on in locker rooms in the NFL, as opposed to what players say on Twitter and stuff like that. I think you'd be surprised at the way coaches talk with each other, the way players talk with each other, things they might say about women, the jokes they might make to each other. And I just think it's funny, Raider fans getting all up and crazy about it. Like, oh my God, how could Jon say something like this? And yeah, it's not a great quote. It's not a great quote. But I've been in DM threads with some of these people where I'm like, okay, if I screenshotted this, like, what would that look like? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I have sympathy on the guy. I'm not a fan of Jon Gruden. I'm not a big Jon Gruden fan. I've learned to live with Jon Gruden because I have to. This is my team, and he's going to be in charge of this team for a long time, for most of the 2020s. Is what it is. But I have a tough time being like, yeah, can this guy? We got to can this guy because of this. Yeah, it just is what it is. I don't expect this locker room to get worse. These players aren't going to intentionally put bad tape out there and fuck up their contracts, potential free agency deals that they might get just because they didn't like something their coach said in 2011. Now, if their coach was saying something like, if he said something about Henry Ruggs in an email right now, I think that's a lot different. I think that's a lot different if that got leaked. Something about Alex Leatherwood, something about Cleveland Ferrell, something about Damon Arnett, right? If that happens, yeah, I think we have a different story. But I don't think these players are going to be, because I don't even think DeMaurice Smith is even the players rep anymore, right? Like, let me look that up. Let me see if he's still the player. I don't think he is. Yeah, actually, he's just going to be stepping down soon. Actually, it's a couple days ago. Okay, so he's going to be stepping down for a little bit. So some of these players do know him. Maybe some of these players like him a lot. He's an NFLPA guy. So maybe there might be something there. But I don't know, man. Guys, don't fight too hard for Jon Gruden on the internet. Certain fans are going to use that against you. We would do the same to them. It is what it is. So, yeah, I mean, if you got any questions, I'm probably going to wrap up soon. But if you guys have any questions, drop it in the comments right now. I think I got to everything that I wanted to get to today. I just want to beat the damn Bears. Beat the Bears. If you're 4-1, we're in good shape. We're in good shape if you beat the Bears. Then you got the Broncos. That's just going to be just a good old low scoring Broncos Raider game that we all are accustomed to, you know. Then you got that. They got some winnable games coming up and they need to win them. Okay. That's what they didn't do last year is they didn't beat the people they were supposed to beat. After had some big wins early and didn't beat who they were supposed to beat. But let's build ourselves like a nice, buffer and get the train rolling. This is a good opponent to have this week. I can't think of a better team to try to bounce back against, but they need to do it. They need to do it. That's all I'll say. So I think that's going to be it for me, guys. This is Rock Vegas. I am Glen Rockney. Matt Fallon was going to join me today. He didn't get off work in time. That's okay. He'll be back. Maybe we'll get him to be shit faced off of like a White Claw and a half, white girl wasted. Maybe a reaction. Hopefully after a Raiders win. I go live. If they win, I go live right away. If not, usually the next day. Maybe. Well, since tomorrow's a 1:00 game, maybe I'll do one that night if they lose. But usually I'll go live right after the game. Hopefully a fun time to have some beers together, talk Raiders. Just beating the crap out of the Bears at home. Let's just hope that happens. I think winning cures all. That's one thing we need to worry about football. You're gonna be worried about all this Gruden stuff. You know what? You know where the Gruden thing comes into question is if they lose these next 2 games. Even if they don't lose the locker room, if you lose these next 2 games, yeah, the media can just say he lost the locker room. It doesn't matter if he did or not. But you've lost 3 straight at that point. Winning cures all. Just win, baby. Rock Vegas, NFL podcast for the Raiders. I just did an episode of RC Sports where I talk about the entire league. I'm going to be doing that probably every other week. Last episode just dropped. I noticed some of you ain't checked it out yet. Please give that a go if you want. Pretty good talk on the rest of the league. And yeah, thanks for everybody for supporting. And let's get this win, boys. Let's get this win. All right, guys. Everybody have a safe night. Talk to you guys on Sunday.